Find somewhere else to die, my father said, standing in the hallway of the house my mother had secured just 6 days after we laid her to rest. He'd already changed the locks. His new wife was already measuring the master bedroom for new curtains. He told everyone I had no claim. He told the insurance company he was the sole beneficiary. He told me my mother couldn't protect me anymore. He was right about one thing. My mother couldn't speak for herself anymore. But what he didn't know was that she didn't need to. She'd already said everything she needed to say in a document he never knew existed. My name is Amelia Harper. I'm 26 years old and I have lupus. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Now let me take you back to last July, the night my mother's heart stopped, and the day everything changed. The hospital room smelled like hand sanitizer and dying flowers. I sat there gripping Mom's hand, Sophia Grace Harper's hand. It felt like bones wrapped in paper, so thin I could trace every knuckle. She had built a whole life from nothing. A tiny apartment, a library card, and a sharp mind that turned numbers into safety for families who needed it most. Pancreatic cancer had stripped her down to 84 pounds. The doctors gave her 16 months. She fought every single one like it was a battle she could win. Her eyes fluttered open just a slit. For a second she was my mom again. Clear, strong, the woman who fixed broken lives with a spreadsheet and a kind word. "The house is yours, baby," she whispered, her voice rough from the tubes. "Don't let anyone tell you different." I squeezed back, my own hands swollen from the lupus flare that had me in a wheelchair for days. "I know, Mom. Rest now." I figured it was the morphine talking, mixing up her words. She closed her eyes. The monitor beeped steady, then nothing. Just silence. I counted every second. 14 minutes before the nurse rushed in. My dad showed up 75 minutes later, Lauren trailing behind him. His new wife, though he swore it was recent. She clutched a fancy bag, her eyes dry as bone. Dad stood at the foot of the empty bed and said, "At least she's not suffering anymore." He didn't even glance at me. My knees locked up tighter. The pain shot through me like fire in my joints. Mom was the only one who ever made me feel like I could stand on my own, even when my body betrayed me. Now she was gone, and the room felt colder than ever. 79 people came to the funeral. Aunt Evelyn counted them all. Mom was that kind of woman, running tax help at the community center, dropping off soup for new moms, staying up late to explain mortgage papers so a neighbor wouldn't lose his roof. People remembered her. But Dad? He stood at the podium and made it all about him. "I lost my partner," he said, voice booming like he was at a board meeting. "My rock, my anchor." He said Mom's name 4 times. His own grief? 9. I counted. My wheelchair parked in the side aisle because no one saved me a front row spot. Lauren stood up front in her black dress, gold bracelet flashing every time she dabbed at her eyes. She cried on cue right when eyes were on her, stopping when they weren't. I watched her do it 3 times. Aunt Evelyn sat next to me, her hand firm on mine like Mom used to do. "Something's not right with that woman," she whispered, eyes locked on Lauren. After the service, folks lined up to hug Dad. Lauren played hostess, all gracious nods and soft thank yous. I wheeled myself toward the parking lot, every push of the wheels sending sparks up my arms. That's when I saw her slip behind the chapel, phone to her ear. Her voice was low, but it carried on the still air. "It's done. We can start Monday." She hung up, spotted me, and plastered on that smile. "You should rest, sweetheart. You look exhausted." 5 days later, the house still reeked of wilted lilies. Dad called me to the living room. He sat in Mom's green velvet armchair, the one she'd had forever. Lauren perched on the armrest, hand on his shoulder, legs crossed like she owned the place. "We need to talk about the house," he said, voice smooth as oil. I sank into the couch, my body screaming from the flare. Joints hot, hands stiff, sleep a distant memory. "This house, the accounts, the insurance, it's all mine now," he went on. "I'm the surviving spouse. Law's clear on that." Lauren nodded along. "It's what the law says, sweetie." He slid a paper across the table. A quitclaim deed. My name typed at the bottom, ready for my signature. Just make it easy. For everyone. I stared at it. The ink looked fresh, like they'd planned this. "Mom told me the house was mine," I said, voice steady even as my heart hammered. Dad leaned back, jaw tight. "She was on painkillers. That means nothing." He paused, eyes narrowing. "She said it before the painkillers too." His words hung there, heavy. "Your mother spoiled you. You think you deserve something you didn't earn?" Lauren rubbed his shoulder, her voice all honey. "Honey, she's grieving. Give her a minute. But her eyes? They flicked to the paper, then back to me, calculating. I didn't touch it. Dad stood, looking down at me like I was a problem to solve. I already have a lawyer. He says your mom died without a will. No will means everything goes to me. That's the law here. He stepped closer. If you don't sign by Saturday, I'll have you removed. Saturday was 3 days away. I didn't sign. That night, at 12:45 a.m., my bedroom door clicked open. No knock, just the hallway light slicing across my bed like a knife. Dad stood there, empty suitcase in hand. He tossed it onto my blanket. Pack your things. I bolted up, shoulders burning from the flare. Every move felt like glass grinding in my bones. This is Mom's house, I said, throat tight. Your mom's dead, he replied, voice low and flat, the kind that comes from deciding something long ago. I'm the surviving spouse. This is my house now. Behind him in the hall, Lauren leaned against the wall, arms folded, that tiny smile playing on her lips, like she was watching a show she'd scripted. Dad stepped in, closer. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. Find somewhere else to die. Your mother isn't here to protect you anymore. I looked at him then, really looked. This was the man who drove me to my first lupus appointment at 14, who used to carry me to bed when the pain won. Or maybe that man never existed. Maybe Mom was always the one holding us up. My chest twisted with it. The love I'd clung to, now cracking under the weight of what he'd become. I packed what I could. Clothes, my meds, Mom's reading glasses from her nightstand. The suitcase dragged heavy across the porch, her wind chimes tinkling in the cold like a sad goodbye. I called Aunt Evelyn at 1:20 a.m. She picked up on the first ring. I'm coming, she said. No questions. Just that. In her car, I couldn't cry. My body had nothing left. She reached over, took my hand on the console. We're going to figure this out. But in my head, a phone number floated up. One Mom made me memorize years ago. I'd never used it, until now. Aunt Evelyn's guest room had yellow curtains that filtered the streetlight into soft gold stripes across the quilt. It smelled like cedar from the old wooden chest in the corner, the kind of scent that wrapped around you like a hug you didn't ask for. I sat on the edge of the bed at 3:30 a.m., my phone glowing in my lap, staring at the bank app. That was it. Everything I had left in the world. My thumb hovered over the screen, and a cold wave hit me, fear twisting in my gut like the lupus pain in my joints. What if this was the end? Mom's voice echoed in my head from that hospital room, but it felt so far away now. She'd fought so hard for me, and here I was, already breaking. The next morning, I called the pharmacy before the sun was fully up. The automated voice cut in sharp. Your insurance has been terminated. My stomach dropped. If you'd like to pay out of pocket, the total for your current prescriptions is $929. 1 month. My whole savings gone in a flash. Hydroxychloroquine, prednisone, the pills that kept my body from turning on itself. Without them, the flares would roar back, kidneys failing faster. Dr. Cole had warned me for years. Dad hadn't just stolen the house. He'd cut the lifeline Mom had always made sure stayed tied to me. I shuffled to Evelyn's kitchen table, mug of tea steaming in front of me. My hands were too swollen to grip it right, so I just stared at the ripples on the surface. Evelyn sat across from me, her face lined with worry but steady, like Mom's used to be. Your mama told me something once, she said quietly, leaning in, about a year before she got sick. She grabbed my arm right there in the kitchen while your dad was watching football. If anything happens to me, tell Amelia to call Rebecca Lang. I looked up, heart skipping. Who's Rebecca Lang? Evelyn reached into her purse and pulled out a folded napkin, edges soft from years of being tucked away. A phone number in Mom's neat blue ink. I don't know, honey, but your mama wrote this down and made me keep it. She said you'd need it when things got bad. Her eyes met mine, full of that quiet strength. Things are bad now, aren't they? I took the napkin, tracing the numbers with a swollen finger. Mom's handwriting deliberate, strong, even on something so small. It hit me then, a rush of nostalgia mixed with grief so deep it ached in my chest. She'd planned this. My mom, who fixed everyone's messes, had seen the cracks in our family long before I did. I felt the betrayal from Dad like a fresh wound, but underneath it, a spark of something warmer. Her love, reaching out from wherever she was. Things were bad, I whispered to myself. As bad as they could get. Michael moved like a storm after that. Within a week he'd called every relative, Uncle Thomas, Uncle Gerald, cousins I hadn't seen since holidays years back. His story spread like poison. Amelia's grieving, acting erratic, refusing to help with the estate. She left on her own. She's unwell, physically and, He implied the rest. I tried, he told Uncle Thomas over the phone, voice all fake concern. She wouldn't let me help. Lauren took it online, posting in the family Facebook group Mom had started for birthdays and photos. We tried to help Amelia, but she wants to do things her own way. Please pray for her. 47 reactions poured in. Hearts, praying hands. Comments like, so sorry you're going through this. All aimed at them, not me. My phone rang nonstop for 3 days. Cousins, aunts, voices, I barely recognized. Your dad just lost his wife, one said, tone sharp. Don't make this harder on him. He's trying his best. Another, maybe you should apologize, Amelia. Family comes first. I stopped answering after the third one, letting Evelyn field them while I lay in the guest bed, staring at the ceiling cracks. The inflammation crawled up my arms like fire ants under my skin, but the real burn was deeper, the loneliness settling in, making me wonder if I'd ever feel connected again. Mom had been my anchor. Now even the family ties felt like ropes pulling me under. One person stood by me. Just one. Evelyn sat on the edge of my bed that night, handing me the napkin again. Call that number first thing tomorrow, she said, her voice firm but soft. Your mama knew what she was doing. I smoothed the napkin between my fingers, the paper crinkling like old secrets. Rebecca Lang. I didn't know her, but Mom had, and that was enough to pull me through the night. I set my alarm for 6:45 a.m., dialed at 7, no answer. 7:25, voicemail. 7:50 again. My thumb shook on the fourth try at 8:15, not from the pain this time, but from the what-ifs piling up. What if this was nothing? What if Mom's plan had a hole? 2 rings, then a voice, low, steady, warm like a courtroom promise. Lang & Associates, attorneys at law. I swallowed hard. My name is Amelia Harper. My mother was Sophia. The voice shifted, closer now, like she'd been waiting. Sophia's daughter. A pause, chair creaking in the background. I've been waiting for your call. I gripped the phone tighter, knuckles white. You knew her. Your mother came to me 4 years ago, Rebecca said. She knew this would happen. She prepared. 4 years. Before the cancer. Before Lauren ever showed up. Mom had walked into this office while I was still thinking our family was solid. The realization hit like a slow wave, grief for what she'd carried alone, mixed with a fierce pride that made my eyes sting. I can't say more over the phone, Rebecca continued. Can you come in tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.? Yes, I breathed. Yes, I can. Good. Bring your ID. Nothing else. Her tone softened just a touch. Amelia, whatever you do, do not sign anything your father gives you. And don't tell him you called me. I won't. My voice cracked. One more thing. Your mother told me you'd call when things got bad. She said I'd know because you'd sound exactly the way you sound right now. A beat. She also told me to tell you, you're going to be okay. The line clicked. I slid down to Evelyn's kitchen floor, phone pressed to my chest, breathing deep. Tomorrow. Answers. But the fear lingered. What if it wasn't enough? The letter came the next morning, hand-delivered by a courier in a crisp uniform. Cream envelope, heavy as a threat. I read it in the kitchen, still in pajamas, coffee going cold. Derek Vance, Esquire, for Michael Allen Harper. The words sliced clean. Sophia Harper died intestate. Surviving spouse entitled to everything. Cease all claims to the Maplewood Lane property within 12 days. Then the gut punch. Our client intends to petition for a determination of incapacity due to her chronic medical condition, rendering her unable to manage her affairs. Incapacity. Because of lupus. Dad wasn't just taking the house. He was coming for my voice. My fight. Evelyn read over my shoulder, silent at first. Then she grabbed her purse and keys. Get dressed. We have an appointment in 80 minutes. She drove me to the pharmacy first. No hesitation. Swiped her card for the $929. Sophia would have done the same for my kids, she said, like it was nothing. In the car I stared at the letter, the word incapacity blurring. He'd taken my home, my meds, now my rights. The betrayal burned, but so did the regret. How had I not seen him changing? We pulled into Rebecca's lot at 9:40. Small brick building, quiet. No flash, just solid. My phone rang as I waited in the reception area. Michael. I answered, pulse racing. Sign the paper, Amelia, he said, voice clipped. No, I have rights. You have lupus. That's all you have. The words landed hard. Practiced. Mom wouldn't want this. Your mom is gone. I'm what's left. I paused, heart pounding. Then I'll talk to a lawyer. Silence stretched, Lauren whispering in the background. What lawyer? He finally snapped. With what money? I hung up, hands shaking. Set the phone down. Evelyn squeezed my arm. He doesn't know yet, I said. She nodded, understanding the game. At 9:45 the inner door opened. Rebecca Lang stood there, early 60s, silver hair pulled back, gray blazer crisp. She smiled, real and sure. Amelia, I'm Rebecca. Your mother was one of my closest friends. Come in. 2 hours in her office flew by, but every word carved deeper. She told me Mom had come 4 years ago, after finding text from Lauren on Dad's phone. She saw the shifts, Rebecca said, folding her hands. Late nights, charges, the affair starting before the diagnosis. Mom had documented it all, updated trusts, recorded videos, even got a judge to review yearly. Airtight. I sat there, chest tight with the weight. Nostalgia hit, Mom in the kitchen, humming while folding laundry, never letting on. She put everything in order, Rebecca said, sliding a sealed envelope my way. My name in her handwriting. You'll hear the letter at the reading. In 18 days. The room felt smaller, the air thicker with what was coming. But for the first time the fear eased a little. Mom had fought from the shadows. Now it was my turn to stand. As I left, my phone buzzed again. Dr. Ethan Cole, my rheumatologist. Amelia, a woman called today. Lauren Harper, saying she's your stepmother and guardian. Wanted all your records. Cognitive function. Decision-making. My blood ran cold. What did you say? No, of course. But she's building a case. His voice dropped. Protect yourself. Evelyn gripped the wheel on the drive back, knuckles white. That woman's evil. I nodded, but inside the unraveling deepened, loneliness sharpening into resolve. Mom's plan was unfolding, and I was ready to step into it. That night, back at Evelyn's, I sat cross-legged on the guest bed, the yellow curtains drawn against the dark. My notebook lay open on my lap, pen gripped tight in my swollen fingers. Every word I wrote burned, dates, conversations, every dollar Mom ever mentioned. Everything's in my name, baby. Not his, mine. Her voice from years ago floated back, a late-night whisper when she thought I was asleep on the couch. She'd been on the phone then, voice low and sure, like she was sealing a deal. Now I understood. It wasn't just talk. It was armor. The lupus ache pulsed in my wrists, but I kept going. Grief hit in waves, mixing with the sharp disappointment that my dad could turn so cold. He'd carried me as a kid, driven me to doctors. But now, the betrayal clawed at me. How did I miss it? I thought, staring at the blank page. All those dinners where he laughed too loud, eyes flicking to his phone. Nostalgia tugged harder. Mom's laugh in the kitchen, the way she'd squeeze my shoulder during a flare, saying, "We've got this." Her love had been quiet preparation, and I'd been too sick, too trusting to see the storm she was bracing for. Evelyn knocked softly, then stepped in with a fresh mug of tea. "You okay in here?" Her eyes searched mine, full of that steady worry. I nodded, but my voice came out rough. Just piecing it together. Mom knew. She knew he'd do this. The words hung, heavy with regret. I'd defended him once, back when Lauren first showed up. He's just stressed, I'd told Mom. Now that lie tasted like ash. She sat on the bed's edge, hand on my knee. "Your mama was always 3 steps ahead. Remember how she fixed that neighbor's roof leak? Same way. Quiet, but solid. We talked then, longer than usual, about the calls from family, the way Uncle Thomas had sounded on the phone yesterday. All hesitant. He said Dad's heartbroken," I mimicked, forcing a bitter laugh. "But you heard him at the funeral. It was all about him." Evelyn's face hardened. "That man's grief is as fake as Lauren's tears. You keep writing. Rebecca's got the rest." She paused, squeezing my hand. "And Amelia? You're not alone in this. Not anymore." Her words settled something in me, a small warmth against the loneliness. But as she left, the fear crept back, sharp, whispering what-ifs. What if the will wasn't enough? What if Dad's lawyers tore it apart? I wrote until my eyes burned, then set the notebook aside. Sleep came in fits, dreams of Mom's voice fading into Dad's cold stare. The 18 days dragged like a slow burn. Certified letters went out. Rebecca's firm handled it. I pictured Dad opening his at the kitchen table, the one Mom had picked out. Evelyn told me he called her right after, voice shaky. "Who is Rebecca Lang?" Sophia never said a word about any lawyer. Evelyn had kept it short, her tone like steel. Come to the reading and find out. What reading? He'd snapped, but there was a crack in it now. There is no will. My lawyer checked. Then you've got nothing to worry about, Michael. Click. She hung up, and we both knew the panic was setting in. That evening, my phone lit up. Dad again. I answered on the third ring, heart thudding. Listen, sweetheart, he started, the word sweetheart landing like a bad joke. He hadn't used it since I was a teen. Maybe we can work something out. You don't need a lawyer. Let's talk this through. Just us. I sat up straighter on the couch. Evelyn watching from the kitchen. I'll be at the reading, Dad. A long pause. I could hear him breathing, uneven. Amelia. See you there. His voice was careful now, like he was walking on thin ice. But in the background, Lauren's murmur, low, urgent. The call ended, and I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. He's cracking, I told Evelyn. She raised her mug in a silent toast, eyes gleaming. Lauren posted that night on the family group, a Bible verse about betrayal. Caption reading, when family turns on you, God sees everything. 8 hearts, 3 prayer emojis. I didn't touch it. Instead, I prepped the list Rebecca asked for. Every detail, every slip. She called later, voice calm. Michael hired a second lawyer, Jonathan Hale, a state guy. He's panicking. I could hear the smile in her words. Good, 16 days until the reading. I took my meds, crawled into bed, and for the first night in weeks, sleep came deep. No dreams of empty suitcases or beeping monitors. Just quiet. The morning of the reading, I stood in Evelyn's bathroom mirror longer than I should have. My reflection stared back. Thinner, shadows under my eyes, wrists puffy from the flare, but I pulled on the dark blazer she'd lent me, flats that didn't pinch. Dress like you belong, Rebecca had said. I did. Evelyn drove, the car quiet except for the wipers slapping at a light rain. No radio. Just the road and my racing thoughts. This is it, Mom's voice, finally. Lang & Associates was a quiet brick spot on Whitmore Street. Stairs up, no elevator, each step a reminder of my body, but I took them slow, Evelyn's hand light on my elbow. The conference room smelled of old wood and fresh coffee. Long table, chairs set like a battlefield. People were already there. Uncle Thomas in his flannel, beard gray, hands shoved deep in pockets. He nodded at me, eyes kind but wary. Uncle Gerald at the end, quiet as ever, staring at the floor. Linda Torres, Mom's accountant, glasses on a chain, notepad ready. 2 paralegals from Rebecca's team near the door. Then the door swung open. Dad walked in, navy suit crisp, hair freshly cut. Lauren a step behind, black dress hugging her, tissue clutched like a prop. Derek Vance trailed, briefcase tight in his grip. Jonathan Hale, shorter, already dabbing sweat from his brow. Dad sat across from me, 8 feet of oak between us. But it felt like miles. His eyes met mine for a split second, hard as flint. Lauren settled beside him, hand brushing his arm. Rebecca entered last, leather folder in one hand, laptop under the other. She set them down at the head, no smile, just that steady gaze. Let's begin. Vance stood first, buttoning his jacket like he was in court. Before we start, my client notes he was unaware of any will, and questions its validity. He sat, quick and practiced, 12 seconds flat. Rebecca didn't rise. She adjusted her glasses, opened the folder. Noted, the will was executed 4 years ago, notarized by Judge Allison Grant herself. 2 witnesses, ready to testify. Validity's not in question. Vance shifted. Hale scribbled. Dad's jaw ticked. He stood then, chair scraping loud. My wife never told me about this. His voice rose, but Rebecca cut him with a look. She wasn't required to, Mr. Harper. The room stilled. Uncle Thomas glanced at Gerald. Linda stopped writing. Lauren leaned in, eyes wide. This is ridiculous, Lauren said, voice cracking just right, hurt but sharp underneath. Sophia was sick. She wasn't thinking clearly. Rebecca turned to her slow, like a predator sizing up prey. Mrs. Harper, you're not a party here. Stay silent unless spoken to. Lauren's mouth snapped shut, hand finding Dad's arm. He didn't pull away, but his eyes flicked to the door like he wanted out. Rebecca waited, letting the quiet press in. Then she started reading. I, Sophia Grace Harper of sound mind. She got through the basics. Name, date, revoking old wills. Dad broke first, not yelling but turning in his seat to face me dead on. You know what your problem is, Amelia. His words came even, aimed like darts. Rebecca paused mid-sentence. The air thickened. Uncle Thomas straightened. Linda set her pen down. "You've been a burden your whole life," Dad went on, eyes locked on mine. "Your mother poured everything into your medical bills, every dime. And what did you give back? Nothing." He shook his head slow. "You can't work. Can't live alone. Some days you can't even walk." A pause, his voice dropping. "Sophia felt guilty about your disease. That's why she kept you around. Guilt, not love." The words sliced deep, each one reopening old wounds. My hands flattened on the table, knuckles aching against the wood. Inside it unraveled. Grief for the dad I thought I knew. Disappointment crashing like a wave. The loneliness of realizing love had conditions all along. Is this how it ends? I thought, breath shallow. Him tearing me down in front of everyone. Aunt Evelyn shot up, chair banging the wall. "That is enough, Michael." Her voice shook with fury. Uncle Thomas muttered, "Can't believe this." Uncle Gerald's head bowed lower. Lauren's hand stayed on Dad's arm, her eyes bright, eager almost. "Honey, calm down." But she didn't mean it. She wanted this mess on record. What she didn't know, Rebecca's paralegal had been recording from the start. Standard for these fights. I caught Rebecca's tiny nod. Mom was about to speak, and the room held its breath, waiting for the storm. Rebecca let the silence stretch out, thick and heavy like the air before a storm breaks. She didn't rush. Every eye in the room was on her now. Dad's face flushed red, Lauren's hand still clamped on his arm, the uncles shifting in their seats. Uncle Thomas looked like he might stand up again, his flannel shirt rumpled from the tension. Uncle Gerald just stared at the table, knuckles white. Linda Torres had her pen frozen mid-air, waiting. I sat there, my swollen hands pressed flat against the cool oak, heart hammering so loud I could feel it in my ears. This is it, I thought, the fear and hope twisting together. Mom's words, finally. But what if it's not enough? What if they twist it somehow? The betrayal from Dad's outburst still stung, fresh as a cut. Guilt, not love. Those words echoed, pulling up old memories of him carrying me up the stairs when I was too weak to walk, his voice soft then. Now? It was all gone, replaced by this stranger across the table. I swallowed hard, pushing the grief down. Nostalgia hit like a punch. Mom's hands on my shoulders during flares, whispering, "You're stronger than this disease." She'd known, all along. "Are you finished, Mr. Harper?" Rebecca asked, her voice low and even, like a doctor before a tough diagnosis. Dad didn't answer. His chest heaved, eyes locked on the folder like it was poison. Lauren squeezed his arm tighter, her smile gone, replaced by a tight line. "Good," Rebecca said. She placed her hands on the document, steady as stone, because your wife had something to say about all of that. She flipped to the first real page, and the room went dead quiet. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, each second pulling the tension tighter. "I, Sophia Grace Harper, being of sound mind and body, hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, revoking all prior wills and codicils." Her voice was clear, professional, but I caught the slight catch when she said Mom's name. She read on through the basics. The executor, the revocations, the state laws. Dad sat forward, gripping the table edge. Lauren dabbed at her eyes again, but this time it looked forced, her fingers trembling just a bit. Then Rebecca hit the first bequest. "To my daughter, Amelia Marie Harper." Dad's head snapped up. Lauren froze mid-dab. "I leave the family residence at 1285 Maplewood Lane, which has been held in the Sophia G. Harper Revocable Living Trust since 2020. Dad's mouth fell open. "What?" The word came out choked, like he'd been punched in the gut. He gripped the table harder, knuckles turning bone white. "That's impossible. My name's on that deed. I signed it." Rebecca looked up, glasses glinting under the lights. She didn't blink. "Your name was never on the deed, Mr. Harper. The property was bought with Sophia's separate funds in 2013. It was always hers. The trust just made it official." Her tone was flat, factual, but there was a steel edge that made the air feel colder. Uncle Thomas leaned back, eyes wide. "The trust names Amelia as the sole beneficiary." Dad's face drained of color, all at once. He looked like a man who'd just watched his world crack open. "I thought it was joint," he muttered, voice small now, but it never was. The words hung there, and I felt a rush of conflicted love twist in my chest. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him, the dad from my childhood who fixed my bike and told bad jokes. But the other part, it was pure disappointment, sharp as the pain in my joints. How long? I wondered silently. How long did Mom carry this alone? Rebecca turned the page, smooth and unhurried. And that's just the house. Shall I continue? She did. The life insurance, $1,875,000, beneficiary me, set 4 years back. Dad turned to Vance, eyes desperate. Vance shook his head, scribbling fast. Then the Vanguard portfolio. $3,625,000 in the trust, all to me. Uncle Thomas let out a low whistle. The IRAs at Fidelity, $1,025,000. Mine. Linda Torres flipped her notes, nodding slowly. The savings at First National, $675,000. Rebecca paused, her eyes flicking to Dad. It passes to Amelia. Dad was on his feet before she could finish the next line, chair scraping back with a screech. This is fraud. His voice bounced off the walls, raw and cracking. She forged this. Sophia would never. Vance grabbed his arm, pulling him down. Sit down, now. But Dad yanked away, pointing at the folder like it was a gun. You put her up to this. He spat at me, spit flying. You manipulated a dying woman. I met his eyes across the table, my voice steady for the first time all day. I didn't. Mom did this 4 years ago. Before she was sick. Before Lauren moved in. The words landed like stones in still water. Uncle Thomas nodded, slow and heavy. Uncle Gerald closed his eyes, whispering something under his breath. Lauren stood halfway up, tears streaming now, real this time, or just the act. This family is tearing itself apart, she said, voice wobbly. Sophia wouldn't want this. Aunt Evelyn didn't even glance her way. Sit down, Lauren. You didn't know Sophia. Lauren froze, then sank back, her face pale. Vance leaned into Dad's ear, whispering urgent. We can't contest this. Not with the judge's notarization and video. Dad looked at him like a drowning man grabbing at air. Video? What video? Rebecca opened the laptop, calm as ever. Sophia recorded a statement to go with the will. She positioned it so the screen faced the center of the table. She asked for it to be played in full. She hit play, and there she was, Mom. Alive. In the green velvet armchair at home, sunlight pouring through the window. Her hair full, face soft, wearing that blue cardigan I'd given her for Christmas years back. The room went still, breath held. I leaned forward, heart aching with nostalgia so deep it hurt. Mom, I thought, tears pricking my eyes. You were always one step ahead. If you're watching this, Mom said, her voice clear and strong, the one from before the cancer stole it, then I'm gone. She looked right into the camera, like she was talking to me alone, and I'm guessing Michael's in that room right now. Angry. Dad flinched, just a tiny jerk, like she'd reached out and touched him from the screen. I want Amelia to know something, Mom continued, her eyes warm. You were never a burden. You are the best thing I ever did. Your lupus doesn't define you. Your heart does. Aunt Evelyn grabbed my hand under the table, squeezing hard. I squeezed back, the grief and love crashing together. I put everything in your name because I trust you. Not because I don't love your father, but because I know what happens when grief meets greed. Uncle Thomas wiped his eyes. Uncle Gerald bowed his head deeper. Linda had stopped everything, just listening. Mom paused, then her face grew serious. Michael, if you're listening, I hoped you'd prove me wrong. I really did. Dad stared at the screen, jaw locked, hands flat on the table like he was holding himself together by threads. And there's one more thing I need to say about Lauren. Mom didn't look angry, just tired, truthful. Lauren, I know you've been seeing Michael since before my diagnosis. I found the messages on his phone 2 months before I went to Rebecca. The room stopped, completely. Dad's head whipped toward Lauren. You told me she never. His voice broke off, raw. I don't say this out of bitterness, Mom went on, cutting through. I say it because Amelia deserves to know, and everyone here deserves the truth, that my decisions were based on facts, not feelings. Uncle Thomas gripped his knees. Uncle Gerald looked at Dad with pure disgust, the kind that comes from deep family betrayal. Michael chose Lauren before I even started chemo, Mom said. I chose to protect my daughter. Her voice softened then, turning to the camera. Amelia, live your life, take care of your health, and remember, you don't owe anyone who chose to leave you. The screen went black. Silence. Lauren snatched her bag, stood up fast, and walked out the door without a word. No glance back. Dad sat there alone, suit rumpled, staring at the laptop like it had betrayed him too. No wife, no fight left, just a man who'd lost everything in one click. Rebecca closed it gently. The trust transfer's effective immediately. Amelia owns the house. The policies and accounts are already filed. Confirmed. She looked at Dad. No pity. Mr. Harper, you have 28 days to vacate Maplewood Lane. You're no longer a legal occupant. Dad's voice came out tiny. She can't just kick me out of my own home. It was never your home, Rebecca said. Facts only. Permission ended with Sophia. Vance stood, touching Dad's shoulder. Let's go. Dad didn't move at first, steps heavy when he did, like the floor was pulling him down. He walked out without looking at me. The door clicked shut, and the room exhaled. I sat there, the weight lifting slow. Mom's voice still echoed in my head. Her love, her fight. The disappointment in Dad faded into a quiet sadness. She knew, I thought, and she made sure I'd be okay. For the first time, the fear eased. But the real work was just starting. 4 days dragged by in Evelyn's house. The yellow curtains doing little to block the gray July rain that pattered against the windows like fingers tapping a warning. I stayed in the guest room mostly, meds on the nightstand, notebook filled with Mom's words from the reading still looping in my head. You were never a burden. Those lines replayed during the quiet hours, stirring a mix of grief and something warmer, gratitude that cut through the loneliness like a lifeline. But the disappointment lingered, heavy in my chest for the dad who'd once been my hero. How could he? I'd think, staring at the ceiling cracks. All those nights he sat by my bed, promising we'd beat this together. Nostalgia pulled at me, memories of his rough hands adjusting my pillows, his voice low with fake confidence. Now it felt like a lie I'd clung to too long. My phone rang on the 5th morning, sharp against the stillness. Michael. I let it buzz twice, then answered, my voice flat. What? Amelia. I'm your father, he started. The words rushed, like he'd practiced them in the mirror. You can't just throw me out. That house, it's been my home for years. We built a life there. I stood by the kitchen window, watching rain streak the glass. You threw me out at 12:45 a.m. when I was sick, Dad. In the cold, told me to find somewhere else to die. The words came out steady, but inside, my heart twisted with the old love now cracked and bleeding. Remember that? A long pause. I could hear him breathing, uneven, maybe pacing the kitchen at Maplewood Lane. I was angry, wasn't thinking straight. His voice cracked just a bit, the vulnerability slipping through. Lauren, she pushed me, said we had to move fast. No, I cut in sharper than I meant. You're a grown man. You made your choices, every one. The betrayal hit fresh, but so did the regret for believing in him, for not seeing the cracks Mom had spotted years ago. More silence, heavier this time. I pictured him there, in her chair, the green velvet one, staring at the walls she'd painted. I'm not doing this out of revenge, I said, softer now. I'm doing it because Mom wanted me safe, and you showed me exactly why she was right. He started to say something, maybe an apology, maybe more excuses, but I didn't wait. You have 28 days. Rebecca's firm can help with housing if you need it. A beat. Goodbye, Dad. The line went dead. I set the phone on the counter, my hand trembling, not from the flare this time, but from the finality of it. Evelyn appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes soft. She didn't ask, just walked over and pulled me into a hug, her sweater smelling like the cedar from her room. You did good, kid, she whispered. Real good. 28 days later, I turned the key in the front door of 1285 Maplewood Lane. The lock clicked smooth, but my breath caught as I stepped inside. The house smelled of dust and stale air, with that faint trace of Mom's lavender hand cream underneath, like she was still here, waiting. Michael had cleared out the week before, moved to his brother's place in Ohio. He'd taken his clothes, golf clubs, a box of tools from the garage, left the rest, the furniture, dishes, her things, even the wind chimes on the porch, tinkling softly in the breeze. I walked through slow, each room pulling memories like threads. The kitchen where she'd hummed while chopping vegetables, the living room, her armchair by the window, angled to the garden, the hallway where he'd stood that midnight, suitcase in hand, my old bedroom, untouched. Then her room. I stopped in the doorway, heart pounding. The journal sat on the nightstand, leather-bound, her handwriting on the first page. For Amelia. I picked it up, pages crinkling under my fingers. Letters to me, dated over her 16 months of illness. Some long pouring out worries about my flares, how she'd lie awake listening to me breathe through the wall. Others short, cardinal at the feeder today. Reminds me of your strength. The last one, shaky but hers. You're going to be okay, baby. I made sure of it. I sank onto her bed, journal clutched to my chest, tears coming hot and silent. Not just grief this time, but a deep, overwhelming love. The kind that plans ahead, that fights from the grave. You knew, I whispered to the empty room. You always knew. The conflicted pull eased a little. The disappointment in Dad faded into quiet acceptance. Family wasn't blood or promises. It was this, her quiet courage, reaching me now. Here's what unfolded after that room emptied. Michael landed in Columbus, Ohio, crashing with his brother Gary in a cramped apartment off the highway. The $25,000 from the will? After lawyers' fees. Vance and Hale took $9,500 belayers between them. He was left with $15,500. No house, no accounts, no Lauren. She bolted right after the reading, didn't even pack her side of the closet. 2 weeks later, Michael came home to find it empty. Jewelry, shoes, all gone. She filed for separation the same week, changed her number. Rebecca filled me in later. Lauren had been fighting for custody of her kids from her first marriage. An 8-year-old boy and 10-year-old girl she'd barely mentioned. Her case hinged on stability, on Michael's money, mine, really. Denied. The community whispered it around. Uncle Thomas starting the chain. The same relatives who'd lectured me. Their voicemails piled up. We didn't know the full story, Amelia. We're sorry. I didn't call back. Truth had a way of catching up, slow but sure. I didn't need the world to know. The people in that room did, and that was plenty. Rebecca's final letter came a week after the 28 days. Short, typed, but her handwriting at the bottom. Sophia would be proud. I am too. The first thing I did was secure my life. Enrolled in real health insurance, rheumatology, labs, ER visits covered. No more nights calculating doses versus groceries. Dr. Cole ran tests at my next appointment, peering over his glasses. Labs are better than they've been in years, he said. Stress kills, peace heals. I nodded, feeling the truth of it in my bones. I went back to work part-time at the community center downtown. Social work. The path I'd started before lupus derailed it. Helping women escape financial traps in families. Navigate abuse. Find lawyers like Rebecca. Some days the fatigue hit like a wall. Joints locking so I typed one-handed from bed. But now I could rest without terror. Resources meant choices. I set up my own trust too. Not out of fear, but because Mom taught me. Love plans ahead. 7 months on, a letter arrived. Handwritten, postmarked Columbus. Dad's tight slant. Amelia, I made mistakes. I miss your mother. I miss you. Can we talk? I read it on the porch, in her chair, wind chimes spinning lazy circles. No anger surged, just a clear, quiet knowing. Some doors stay closed, not from hate, but honesty. I went inside, pulled out her old stationery, cream with her initials. Wrote back, Dad, I don't hate you, but I can't trust you. If you're changing, start with yourself. I wish you well, but my door isn't open now. Maybe one day. Sealed it, mailed it, not forever, just for now. The right kind of boundary. It's spring now. I'm on the porch of my house, mine. Chamomile tea steams on the railing, Mom's favorite, the scent wrapping around me like her hug. Her journal sits beside me, pages worn from my thumbs. Lupus is still here, always will be. Last week, a bad flare had me on the kitchen floor, waiting for the prednisone to kick in. But I have doctors, insurance, a life worth fighting for. In the garden, tulips bloom along the back fence, red and yellow, tall and bright. Mom planted them the fall before she died, kneeling in the dirt despite the early cancer. She knew she wouldn't see them. Did it for me anyway. That's love. Bulbs in the ground, a will in a lawyer's drawer, a future she wouldn't share but built anyway. I close the journal, lean back, the wind chimes sing. Somewhere she knows I'm okay. This story? It's not about the money or the fight. It's about a mother who loved enough to battle from beyond. If you're out there hurting, feeling like a burden, hear this. You're enough. Someone believed in you. They made sure you'd be okay. You just might not know it yet. The days after the reading blurred into a quiet rhythm, one I hadn't known in months. Evelyn drove me back to her place that afternoon, the rain now a steady drizzle that turned the streets slick and reflective. We didn't talk much on the way, her hands steady on the wheel, mine folded in my lap, the weight of Mom's words still settling like dust after a long storm. You did it, she said finally, glancing over. She did it for you. I nodded, but inside, the The emotions churned. The sharp grief of losing her all over again. The deep disappointment in Dad that made my chest feel hollow. And a nostalgia so tender it hurt. Flashes of him at the dinner table years ago, laughing at Mom's jokes, his hand on mine during my first bad flare. I miss who he was, I thought, the conflicted love pulling at me. Or who I thought he was. But the betrayal? It had hardened into something clearer. A boundary I could live with. Back at her house, I called Rebecca that evening, voice low over the phone. "What happens now?" I asked, the question hanging between us. She was calm as always. "The transfers are in motion. House is yours by week's end. Accounts too. But Michael, he'll fight the timeline a bit. Expect a call or two." A pause, then softer. "Your mom planned for that too. The video? It's ironclad. No judge touches it." I hung up, staring at the journal on the nightstand. That night, sleep came easier, but dreams flickered. Mom in the hospital, her whisper about the house. Dad's face at the reading, crumbling. I woke with a start once, heart racing, but the fear was less now, replaced by resolve. This is what family means, I reflected in the dark. Not the blood that breaks you, but the love that builds walls around you when you're not looking. The police didn't come knocking, not in the way of sirens and questions, but the aftermath rippled out like quiet waves. A week later, Uncle Thomas stopped by Evelyn's with a casserole, his beard longer, eyes tired. "Amelia," he said, voice rough as he set it on the table. We got it wrong. Thomas and we talked to Gerald, heard the full tape from Rebecca's office. Michael's version. It was all smoke." He shifted, uncomfortable. "Your dad called me last night. Sounded broken. Said Lauren's gone for good. Kid's custody fell through. He's in Ohio now, sleeping on Gary's couch. Asks about you every time." I poured him coffee, my hands steadier than they'd been. "Tell him I got the letter. But boundaries stay." He nodded. "No pushback." "Fair enough. Family's messy. Yours was built different." We sat then, longer than usual, talking about Mom, how she'd helped him with his taxes once. No charge, just soup and stories. The conversation stretched, revealing cracks in his own regrets. "I should have seen it," he admitted, the way he changed after she got sick. His words mirrored my own thoughts, easing the loneliness a fraction. One by one the family ties mended. Not fully, but enough to remind me I wasn't adrift. Dr. Cole's office became a ritual. At the next visit, he reviewed my charts, a rare smile breaking through. "Inflammation's down 40%. You're responding well." I told him about the trust. The work starting up. "Peace heals," he repeated, but this time I believed it. The fatigue still came in waves, locking my knees some mornings. But with insurance, I could pause, breathe, fight back smarter. At the community center, my first client was a woman named Maria, mid-30s, lupus like me, husband draining the accounts. "He says I'm a burden," she whispered across the desk, eyes down. I leaned in, voice steady. "You're not. My mom showed me that." I connected her to Rebecca's firm, watched her shoulders lift. It felt like closing Mom's circle, her courage flowing through me. Michael's second letter came in fall, shorter. "I'm getting help. Therapy. Miss the old us." I read it on the porch, wind chimes whispering. No anger, just a sad clarity. "Family means choosing who lifts you up," I thought, penning a reply. Proud of the steps. Doors cracked, not open. I mailed it, the stamp a small weight lifted. Spring bloomed full now. Tulips nodding in the garden like old friends. I sat in Mom's chair, journal open to her last page. "You're going to be okay." The words weren't just ink anymore. They were her hand in mine, guiding me through the betrayal, the grief, the slow rebuild. Lupus whispered threats. But I had armor. Her preparation, my fight, the quiet strength she'd planted like those bulbs. Somewhere in the breeze I felt her. I made sure of it. And for the first time the house felt like home. Not just walls, but a shield. If this reaches you in the dark, know this. Love isn't loud. It's the will you never saw coming, the trust that outlives the storm. You're seen, you're protected, even if the ones who should have failed you. As the sun dips low now, casting those long shadows across the garden she tended just for me, I find myself grateful, not just for the life she secured, but for the chance to share every raw layer of it with you. If you've stayed until this quiet end, feeling the depth of a mother's unspoken battles, and the intensity of love that even death couldn't break, then you've been part of something that reshapes the heart. This story, with its unflinching truth and the profound strength it carries, lingers like her lavender scent on the air. If it has touched you, if it feels like a shared victory in the silence, then I invite you to like this and subscribe. Not out of duty, but as a way to keep these tales of quiet resilience alive, to stay connected for the next story that might find you when you need it most. Drop a comment below, where you're watching from, what time it is where you are, and what piece of this will you carry with you into the light.